How many people voted for your plan?
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
Well, you've set out a significant change of direction from the Conservative government that you were being part of for many, many years. But how many people voted for you to do that?
Well, people in 2019 who voted Conservative voted for a successful country where we are levelling up all parts of the country and where we're driving growth, enterprise and opportunity. Now, any government has to deal with the circumstances it faces. And we face this situation of, which was unforeseen, huge energy costs, rising inflation due to the war in Ukraine and the aftermath of COVID.
But you know
we
very
are
well, Prime Minister, that a small number of people in the Conservative Party, tens of thousands rather than the whole country, voted for you in the leadership contest, perfectly legitimately. But do you fear that you have put the country on a path that it didn't ask for, because you believe very strongly that it will lead to growth?
And that's why I promised on entering Downing Street to act. Let's get them removed. Now, later on in my speech, my friends, I'm going to talk about the anti-growth coalition. But I think they arrived in the hall a bit too early. They were meant to come later on. So we'll get on to them. We'll get on to them in a few minutes.
In 18 days, then, you announced £45 billion of tax cuts without setting a fiscal framework. It precipitated a £65 billion emergency bond buying programme by the Bank of England to protect pension funds. The pound tanked. 1,000 mortgage deals withdrawn from the markets as interest rates expectations spiked. You established a 33-point lead for Labour in the polls. And now the lady not for turning has announced a massive U-turn on a policy. This is surely the worst start of any Prime Minister.
Well, let's remember what we were facing 4 weeks ago.
But do you accept that it's been a bad start?
We were facing families having energy bills of up to £6,000. We were facing inflation that could have been 5% higher as a result of those energy prices. And we were facing a global economic slowdown. And what we have done as a government is acted decisively. We've acted to put in place the energy price guarantee, which has already come in. It means that families, typical family, won't be paying more than around £2,500.
Prime Minister, we've covered a lot of this on Sky News. My question was, do you accept you've had a rocky start?
Are you absolutely committed to abolishing the 45p tax rate for the wealthiest people in the country?
Yes. And it is part, Laura, it is part of an overall package of making our tax system simpler and lower. But I think it's worth noting, in the package we announced, the vast majority of that package is the energy package.
And we've talked a lot about that, but
it's the energy package, it's national insurance. The 45p rate actually raises very little and makes our tax system more complicated. And we need to move away. We need to move away from the idea that everything is about how we redistribute resources. We also need to make sure we have got a tax system that's competitive internationally, and it's helping us bring in the investment, get people into work,
and you've made
get
that very
people
clear that
wanting
getting the
to
economy
get up the
going is
career
your
ladder.
priority. You've made that very clear. Can I ask you, Prime Minister, did you discuss scrapping the top rate with your whole cabinet?
No.
On the first encounter with trouble with your parliamentary party, you buckled.
Well, the 45p rate was something that was a relatively minor part of our growth package. And I listened to what people had to say, both my parliamentary colleagues but also to the public, and we have changed our policy as a result. And
Do you still think it's a good idea, just unpopular?
I would like to see the higher rate lower. I want us to be a competitive country, but I have listened to feedback. I want to take people with me. Yes, we are going to have to make tough decisions. Yes, we're going into a tough winter. Yes, times are difficult. But fundamentally, if people are concerned about something which was a distraction from the major policies which I've outlined, Chris, like the energy price guarantee, like keeping taxes low, like getting the economy moving, I felt it was wrong to allow that distraction to continue from the major parts of our package.
I'm not going to tell you what to do or what to think or how to live your life. I'm not interested in how many 2-for-1 offers you buy at the supermarket or how you spend your spare time or in virtue signalling.
There are problems in other countries around the world, but the Bank of England's chief economist has said the rise in borrowing undoubtedly had a UK-specific component. Standard & Poor's, who one of the world's biggest credit rating agencies, put the government on notice, saying that the country might have a credit downgrade. You can't just say this is something that's happening around the world.
No, and I think we've made the right decision to borrow more this winter to deal with the extraordinary circumstances we face.
To deal also
because
with the tax cuts you want to give people.
The alternative, Laura, let's remember what the alternative was. The alternative was people would be paying up to £6,000 on their energy bills. Inflation would be 5% higher than it would be otherwise, and we would be facing a worse economic slowdown. That was the alternative. We're not living in a perfect world. We're living in a very difficult world where governments around the world are making tough decisions.
And you've explained
I believe it was the right decision to increase borrowing this winter. We have the second lowest borrowing in the G7.
You saw what happened to Boris Johnson. He led the party to this enormous victory, but he got thrown out because he couldn't control his MPs. You're a few weeks in and you can't control your MPs. You've got to reassert discipline.
Well, we are very clear that we have a plan. We are working with our MPs as a plan. This is a team. This is the Conservative team putting forward our policies for the country and delivering for the country. I mean, I'm 4 weeks into the job. We've already delivered on the energy price guarantee. We've already delivered on my campaign commitments on national insurance and corporation tax.
I've got two,
and we will deliver more.
But I've got two very material questions.
Economic growth makes us strong at home and strong abroad. And we need an economically sound and secure United Kingdom. And that will mean challenging those who try to stop growth. I will not allow the anti-growth coalition to hold us back. Labour, the Lib Dems, the SNP, the militant unions, the vested interests dressed up as think tanks, the talking heads, the Brexit deniers, Extinction Rebellion, and some of the people we had in the hall earlier. The fact is, they prefer protesting to doing. They prefer talking on Twitter to taking tough decisions. They taxi from North London townhouses to the BBC studio to dismiss anyone challenging the status quo. From broadcast to podcast, they peddle the same old answers. It's always more taxes, more regulation, and more meddling. Wrong, Wrong. Wrong.
Just a few quick questions, if I can. What's your favourite type of cheese?
There's quite a few.
A British cheese, though.
I do like Stilton.
Your favourite Taylor Swift song?
Blank space.
If you had to go for a cup of tea, who would you choose, Rishi Sunak or Michael Gove?
Both of them, of course.
And if it's another life, another career, what else would you think you would do if you weren't being Prime Minister?
Be a food critic.
Keir Starmer wants to put extra taxes on the companies we need to invest in our energy security. And his sticking plaster solution will only last 6 months. He has no long-term plan and no vision for Britain. Mark Drakeford in Wales is cancelling road building projects and refusing to build the M4 relief road. Nicola Sturgeon won't build new nuclear power stations to solve the energy crisis in Scotland. Have these people ever seen a tax rise they don't like? or an industry they don't want to control? They don't understand the British people. They don't understand aspiration. They are prepared to leave our towns and cities facing decline.